Angeliki Petritz. Please could you tell me a little bit about yourself, the job you do, how long you've been doing this job?
Well, I work for the European Commission at the Directorate General for Translation, and I started in 1990, which means that I'm there for 18 years now. My current post is Coordinator of Relations with Universities. It's a very challenging job because I have to establish the link between the academic world and the professional world. But I've done several different types of translator, let's say, jobs before in the Commission. I worked as a manager for machine translation projects and also as a representative of my directorate in Budapest to organize recruitment of Hungarian translators just before and after enlargement.
So how did you become a translator? What was the very start of your career?
Well, I'm Greek and I like languages. But at the time when I finished high school, that was in 1980 in Athens, there were no translation studies at university. So what I did, I studied French. You could pick up one language, could be French, English, German and Italian, and that was it at the time. And studied French language and literature. But at the same time, I studied languages on my own, you know, in different institutes like the British Council, the Goethe Institute, Istituto Italiano di Cultura. Even I did a translator course at the French Institute. And this as a hobby, I mean, at the time, I didn't really know what I would do with it, but I just, you know, liked languages and liked the communication aspect of languages. So at the university, I discovered sociolinguistics. And, well, what you say, why you say it, to whom, and then moved to Paris. I obtained a scholarship and did a PhD in linguistics, well, in sociolinguistics. And while I was in Paris, it was at the end of my studies, I saw an announcement for a translator competition at the Council of the European Union. And I said, okay, Brussels is not that far from Paris, so that's not that bad. So I just sat and got it. And I started my career in Luxembourg and then moved to Brussels, and that's it.
What are the most interesting aspects of what you do?
What I enjoy very much now is that I started a project from scratch, which is a European Masters in Translation. So we try to have a benchmark for quality studies in translation throughout the EU, and that's a huge challenge because you have to deal with 27 member states, which means 27 different legislative systems, and you have to make them agree on common standards and common quality standards, because the Commission doesn't have any competence in training matters. So we can't impose any rules, we have to convince and encourage, and that's even more challenging. So what I enjoy is all these contacts I can have with the academic world, because I'm coming myself from the academic world, so I think that's one of the reasons of the success of this project, is that we speak the same language. And I feel very, very lucky that I have all these contacts with all these universities throughout the EU.
Is there anything that you wish you'd known when you started your career? And linked to that, any tips for budding linguists?
Well, when I started, I had a very good language level. Especially French. French and Italian were my competition language. And I knew what translation is about, this thanks to my course at the French Institute. But I didn't know anything about international organizations, anything at all. So I remember my first week there, somebody asked me to write the minutes of a meeting. And I had a proficiency degree in English. And I didn't know what the word minutes meant. I thought, minutes, time, what is minutes? I didn't know what the meeting was. I was 27 years old. Well, maybe later I would have more experience. It was my first job, actually. And I didn't know what a meeting was, how it worked. You know, that there should be a record of a meeting, you know, things which are, you know, so normal. And I think that it would be useful if you have some knowledge of how international organizations work, what the challenges are, so that you can better fit in your working environment. So I wished I had some of that before.
I think you've already answered that a little bit, but maybe you can explain it again. How important are linguists in your organisation?
They're very important for the EU. They're extremely important. We have 23 official languages, and we issue legislation which is directly applicable to every European citizen. So we can't expect from a European citizen to know English or another language in order to comply with legislation. It has to be in his mother tongue. So linguistic rights are human rights for the EU, and it's extremely important.
Do you yourself use your linguistic skills on a daily basis?
I do, yes, I do, because as I deal with different countries and universities and member states, whenever I speak the language of the country, of course, I try to use it in my contacts or when I give conferences, speeches, etc. So I can say, yes, I do practice my languages.
And do you get opportunities to build on the skills that you already have?
Oh yes, when I started I had some Spanish and some German, so I had the opportunity to learn, do language courses in the EU. We have all official language courses, all 23. And then I had the opportunity to go and study in the member states. I took up Portuguese from scratch and then went twice to Lisbon to study, and took up Hungarian, which was extremely useful for me when I applied for the job in Budapest. So, and then also had language courses in Hungary. So I think that if you are a language freak, you always find, the possibility to improve, and there's lots of opportunities, yes, in the EU.
Angeliki Petritz, thank you very much.